Hello YouTube, it's Ian again. If you've seen part 1 of the series that I'm making, you know that I didn't, well, for whatever reason, the still images I took of the base of the bullets didn't go through, so I'm going to try this again, and I'll include some more videos or still pictures. But hopefully you can see that. You can see this one on the left here. It's a wheel weight bullet, and it has voids in the base. But anyways, I want to show you a few things I've got to do this with. This over here is I've got reading dies here. Now, this old doohickey right here, I think this is really what makes it. This is a custom expander die that Buffalo Arms makes. It's a 460 in the base, which right here, it expands the brass to 460, and then at the mouth, it goes to 464, right there. So that allows you to slip the projectile into the case without shaving any of it off. And then the 460 will give you enough neck tension that when we charge these cases and get them ready, you can just thumb seat them, but there'll be enough pressure on it that you can turn it upside down and they will not fall out. Now I'm using Winchester brass. I like Winchester brass for trapdoors. It's thinner, it's more malleable for that reason. It seals the chamber a little better, especially with light loads. I'm using the Federal Magnum primers. And those of you familiar with the Trapdoor book, it's worth noting that these flash holes are not drilled out with the 96 thousandths. These are just straight as they come out of the bag. Now, these cases have been fire formed. I don't, anyways, want to full length resize my cases. So I've got just a neck sizing die. Redding makes a neck sizing die for the 4570, but if you don't have one, you don't feel like going out to buy one, you can take your full length sizer die and not screw it down all the way, just screw it in partially and kind of gauge how far to screw it in. To where you're just sizing only this portion of the case here. Then you use this expander, custom expander. Buffalo Arms sells these, so if you do a search on the internet, you'll find them. You screw it into your expanding die and do it that way. Now they make them for Redding, RCBS, and a couple other different die manufacturers. You just have to get on there, pick out the one you want for whichever die set you have. I don't think they make them for Lee. But, okay, so what we've done here, we've primed on the cases first of all, and you don't have to have them fire formed. I mean, you can take that expander and run some fresh brass that way. But I've neck sized all of these, I've primed them, and I've expanded them. So the next step is I'm going to go through and charge them, each one of them, 35 grains of GoX 3F. I'm going to do some of them and then I'll come back to you. Now after you've charged your cases with 35 grains, you'll notice that the powder column only comes up to about right here in the case. Now, the bullet is going to be seated about there. So you need to put something in there to take up that airspace. I like to use cream of wheat. And the way I measure it out is Lee makes these real handy little dippers. You'll have to do some experimenting to see what your case thicknesses are different on different kinds of brass, so just a little bit of experimenting to come up with this. But I'll take my 1.6 cc scoop, put it into the brass, and I'll do all of these like that. And then once I've got all that done, I'll take a projectile, and even though it's 458, 459, I'm going to go ahead and run it through my 460 sizing die. That way I don't size it down any more than it already is. I'll go ahead and lube that up. And it's not sizing it, I'm really just lubing it. And then I'll just thumb seat it. Seat it over top, and like I showed you, a little bit of neck tension on that thing, so you can just push it down with your finger. Now if you look at these bullets, you'll see they've got a driving band right there, that front band. You want that kind of around in the same area as the mouth of the case. If you can get it, the length is not real critical, I don't think. So just something somewhere in the ballpark of that right there. I'm not going to take any. Well, I'll take a measurement. Let's see what it is. That is 2.808. But your results may vary. But the important thing is that it'll chamber, and this will chamber. Now we're not going to crimp this, as I've noted before. It's got a 464 mouth on it, which brass will, it'll shrink a little bit after that. I don't know what the exact dimension is, but right when when you go to chamber this, right when it gets towards almost fully seated, you may feel a little bit of resistance. That's this brass scraping the chamber wall. That's normal. That's okay. When you slam down the action of the trapdoor, it'll cram this into there, and it'll take this mouth and squeeze it down a little bit and give that bullet a little more neck tension and help it bump up even more. Now, as you can see, you can spin this thing, kinda, but it won't fall out. So that's why I neck size them and do that expanding with them. But this is ready to go. That's all I'm going to do to it. Alright YouTube, before I sign off on this video, I just want to make sure and go over a few things with you. I'm going into this with the assumption that you already have some kind of idea of how to reload, bullet casting and all that stuff, black powder cartridge. If not, of course there's a bunch of good videos on YouTube about that, about reloading, bullet casting and all that stuff, how to clean black powder firearms. Something I haven't covered and you may not know about is how to clean brass. There's several different ways to do it, but for me, I've found wet tumbling is the best way. I've got a little tool which I'll show you as we're shooting next weekend. After I fire my brass, I'll put it in this tool and it just pops out the primer, and then I'll take the case, put it in just a tub of plain water, something that laundry detergent came in. I'll just fill it up with water, nothing else, and I'll let that soak. That softens up that black powder filings in the case. When I get home, I dump the water out of that container and I put the brass into my tumbler's tumbler with ceramic media, and I let that tumble for several hours and the brass comes out. Primer pockets are good as new down inside the case. Looks like it's just brand new, just made. Something else I was going to say. Not all of you may have the 1881 bullet for the Trapdoor. They originally made that bullet for a 4580 in their target rifles for the Springfields, and they decided that that bullet worked so well that they're going to go ahead and start using it in their 4570s. That's why in 1884 they come up with the new Buffington sight. I do have the hollow base 1873 bullet design, and I did try that with 35 grains, the light loads. And it did work. It was definitely good enough to shoot out of these skirmish type shoots. But the 500 grainer just did a little bit better. You're probably going to talk about a ½ inch, maybe an inch difference in the group. And it's less lead, but the 500 grain for me did better, and that's why I'm going with that one. If you don't have that one, you have the 405 grain hollow base bullet that Lee makes. That one will work good too. Just try different loads. It's going to be right around that area, I think. And having said this, like I said in my previous video, do this at your own peril. I'm not responsible for any. I can't be at the loading bench with you, so I'm not responsible for any mistakes that are made. But I think that's it. Like I said, the shoot is next weekend up in Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's where we're going to put. That's where the rubber's going to meet the road, so to speak, and we're going to see how these do. Start off shooting a few paper targets, and then we'll break it down into team events. We have four-person teams, and whoever breaks your targets in the shortest amount of time wins. There's several events. I think there's 4 or 5. There'll be a 100-yard event, and 3 or 4 50-yard events, various targets. So I hope you come with me. It'll be a good time, and we'll see you later.